Africa is strengthening its global presence through key events that showcase its culture, resilience and innovation. The African Media Award celebrated authentic storytelling, while Ethiopia's hosting of the IGAD Award highlights its leadership in climate diplomacy. As Ethiopia prepares for COP32, these events reflect Africa's growing influence in shaping narratives and promoting sustainable development. Hello and welcome. Today's roundup covers these two important awards. I'm Gamichi Samandida, joined by Getinnet Shunkute. Stay with us. Hello, Getinnet.
Hello, good afternoon, Gamich.
I'm good. Yeah, Getinnet, we had these two wonderful media awards within 5 days' time, within a period of 5 days only. Generally speaking, how do you reflect on the fact that, we've had these two events, within only a period of 5 days?
As you mentioned earlier, the last 5 days was very important for storytellers and journalism. There was a celebration just recognizing African journalists for their outstanding work. So the first one is actually that was conducted over the weekend, the IGAD Media Awards, that this regional organization, regional organ recognized an outstanding journalist from across the region, especially from 8 members countries. So the event was held under the theme storytelling for climate action for a secure, resilient and sustainable region. And Addis Ababa was on the forefront to host this very important and critical an event. And I was among the outstanding journalists to be recognized.
I should say
congratulations
to getting it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gamaches. Yeah. So I was one of the journalists to be recognized for my work, especially on climate intelligence and climate data, the importance of this data to take, actions, to take the response before the climate-induced impacts affect millions of community in this very important part of the world, especially the Horn African regions. And as you know, climate change has evolved from being, a distant concern to just a daily crisis for many East African community. It resulted displacements, recurrent droughts, floods, and also extreme weather events that had resulted so many challenges for millions of pastoralists and farmers. So this by itself requires the involvement of storytellers, journalists to step somewhere. Especially journalists, storytellers have their own role, a great role, to show the direction, to give, some hints, especially for policymakers, governments, to react what is going to happen and before affecting the society. So recognizing journalists by itself, it is a lot. So the IGAD region, especially the organ IGAD, has recently showing a strong stance to journalists, to have their own contribution for the development of the society, for the betterment of the future in the whole of Africa. And another event, as you have mentioned already, Addis Ababa also was hosting last night, especially the first ever award for journalists, which is just recognizing journalists for their contribution, especially for authentic stories and also for portraying Africa, especially the true version of Africa, what Africa looks like, and rather than the international negative portrait. So this week in general was a great time for journalists, and Addis Ababa successfully hosted this event as Gamach, I would say.
Yeah, getting it. By the way, the IGAD award is very timely because the IGAD region in general is the one affected badly by climate change. And if you remember, the panelists there described the fact that climate change is something that is very much real in the Horn of Africa, and its impacts are on a daily basis growing. And I remember one of the panelists, mentioning that climate change and its impacts are developing throughout the years, especially from, of course, the 1970s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and now it has always been growing, and unfortunately the negative impacts are growing, and they need some kind of proactive response from these member state countries or the IGAD member states. When it comes to the Africa Media Award, of course, it appreciates diversity, resilience, and vibrancy of the African continent. Africa is, a huge continent, and its populations, in billions, and its cultures, as different as anything. And so you can't define, this is Africa, or the identity of Africa is this or that, because it's heterogeneous and it's very complex, and you just find anything that you consider to be from top to bottom, from 0 to 100, etc., showing that, of course, the African continent is diversified continent in terms of anything like economy, political ideologies, social life, etc. So the peoples of Africa go through challenging scenarios throughout the years, throughout the centuries. We just have conflicts. We just have lack of security in many places. We have limited resources. Of course, these limited resources are attributed to the fact that Africans have not been able to fully harness their natural resources. So since the situation in Africa in many aspects is so complex, there is no just one real solution for the challenges of Africans. So resilience is, of course, something that Africans need to have in order to resist the challenges the continent is going through, or the continent is facing these days. So diversity, resilience, and vibrancy of the continent need to be showcased by the media. And of course, this particular African Media Award, of course, gave recognition, for those journalists who have played, their peculiar roles in showcasing, what Africa has got for the rest of the world. As we know, the discourse of Africa, unfortunately, has been formulated or created and propagated by external media sources, and of course, they cannot, speak genuinely for you. And Africa needs, some kind of genuine voice from its own children, its own citizens, and this has been, very much emphasized by, I would say, both the IGAD Media Award and this the African Media Award. Ethiopia being chosen to host the upcoming COP32 because it was part of the IGAD Media Award. And how do you see that?
Yeah, exactly. From the very beginning, as we said, journalists were awarded or recognized, especially for the contribution for climate-related issues, because this climate issue has become a very pressing issue for African continent, particularly for the Horn of Africa. It is unfortunate the Horn of Africa, I mean the East African region, is arid. Always it's vulnerable for climate-induced impacts, and that requires some mitigations. And Africa also as a continent suffering from climate change impacts in many ways, because Africa does not have any contribution for the greenhouse or for any kind of climate impact, but it's suffering from this climate change problem. Ethiopia has selected, to host the upcoming 2027 COP32 summit, which is a great milestone for the country as well as for the African continent. What Ethiopia has done for the last 7 years, especially, the country has achieved a lot of things that can be taken as a leading and a model not only for Africa but for the global community. We know it's a very simple example, which is the country has been executing the Green Legacy Initiative. So this is a great success. That is a criteria, the first criteria, what Ethiopia's role is increasingly grow in global climate leadership.
By the way, this COP32 summit,
Yeah.
or anything similar to it is a huge one, because it is a global summit, because it involves nations from across the globe, and of course the issues to be entertained would be very much important, and the outcome of such summits is likely to be highly impacting. How do you think Ethiopia should prepare itself to host it?
Yeah, exactly. So, of course, Ethiopia has an experience actually hosting such international conferences. We have the African Union here, the United Nations, Economic Commission, ECA is here, and Ethiopia every year hosts huge international conferences, and the country will host this international summit successfully. But beyond that, Ethiopia will play a significant role, especially to amplify the African voices, especially related to climate issues. It will play a significant role, especially to mobilizing significant resources for climate mitigation effort.
We have young people, especially who utilize the social media, say TikTok or Facebook, and these young people of course claim that they need to be working with the governments of these IGAD member states collaboratively in order to bring this climate data to proper people. For example, farmers. Farmers need to know about the weather, about the climate, about any challenge that is associated with climate or weather, and unfortunately these young people receive little attention by various stakeholders, say by the government, by farmers themselves, who are directly impacted by this climate change. So how do you think these young people as journalists can collaborate with various stakeholders in order to effectively utilize climate data?
Yeah, exactly, Gamachi. So the challenges of our era is climate change, honestly speaking, because especially for third world countries like us, really the impact is extreme and it's visible, For instance, data shows that, the recurrent drought between 2021 and 23, Africa, the East African region especially, faced an extreme and worst drought in 4 decades. Okay, this is a result of the climate change. And what I expect from journalists, especially just trying to make a relation with Ethiopia's preparation for the upcoming COP30 summit, we as a journalist, we are expected to show the direction. We have to be, a solution-oriented journalist rather than, repeating things and rhetoric. And we have to convince policymakers. We have to show the government leaders the way how they are going to respond the social problems, the climate problem, or the conflict problems in our countries, in our regions. So journalists are really expected highly to play their important role in this regard. So the first thing is, for instance, about the East African region. As a result of drought, as a result of climate change, one thing, we have to inform the society about what will happen in this region. For instance, the very important thing is data. What kind of data, what kind of weather event is going to happen the next day, the next month, the next year. And for instance, IGAD, the IGAD region, for instance, as an institution, it has its own climate prediction center, which is ICPAC, is a very important staff to giving an update to society the weather prediction. So we have to be alert and make the society so alert. For instance, for the last decade, the East African region, especially farmers and pastoralists, have seen, a transboundary pests, which is as a result of droughts. For instance, locusts has destroyed millions of tons of farmers' crops repeatedly. But if we have a data, and we have had a data, we can save products. So we have to cautious and play our significant role as a journalist, and especially for the upcoming summit, journalists from Ethiopia, not only in Ethiopia, also in Africa, across Africa, should collaborate to show the directions, and also to make pressure which is in a positive manner for governments, policymakers to have a response for this looming danger that will probably change the world into a catastrophic event. So the role of journalists is unmatched in this regard, and we have to do that, Gamach.
Yeah, well, these media awards, the Africa Media Award and IGAD Media Award, how should the international community engage in supporting, Africans, so that, Africans will use this knowledge, these skills to solve, just their challenges in relation to climate or anything else? Of course, the IGAD Media Award focused on climate-related issues, but this one, the Africa Media Awards, covers, just almost everything, okay? Everything other than additional things to climate matters, yeah? Other issues, social issues, economic issues, political issues, and of course, what the African Media Award tried to do was to encourage journalists who played, peculiar roles in solving African problems in any aspect, okay? And especially, just becoming proactive, and then educate the populations, African populations at large, giving, showcasing, Africa's positive sides, etc., or creating, genuine narratives about Africans. So how do you see the involvement of the international community in this regard, in order to ensure that Africans will be able to communicate, okay, their issues, so that, they can have solutions? How is it that, Africans will be able to communicate using the media to be proactive enough to avoid, possible challenges or problems before they happen?
Inequality has still remained a challenge in terms of resource, in terms of technological utilization. So in my opinion, Africa, we are living in a time of knowledge liberalization. Yeah? People can learn simply sometimes from their home. Or Africa still has been lagging behind in technological use and employ, including even on the time as this time the AI technology is really expanding across the world, has become a powerful instrument to facilitate technological equipment as well as development, especially to ensure prosperity. So there are lots of challenges in terms of employing technology and use for poverty eradication and ensure growth. So in this regard, how the journalists play their role is very important. Okay.
Yeah. Let's get in it.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I interrupted
no
you
problem.
because I want the two of us to reflect on the possible impact of ever-changing knowledge and skill around us.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned, for example, AI. AI is threatening not only Africans but also nations in the advanced world. Okay,
Yeah.
Americans, Europeans, they're frightened by the possible consequences of using AI because AI has broken walls and it is controlling, just the world, and the knowledge that's relevant right now may not be, after a few days, after a few hours, after a few minutes, a few seconds, because too much is added to it. And Africans, most of us, we know we're not, in the pace, okay, in the pace required to catch up with the rest of the world. And these kinds of things need to be clearly identified by African nations, and solutions need to be sought, and especially proactive ways of dealing with them should be on the table for African nations.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. AI is, for instance, it's a global phenomenon. You can't escape, actually. Whether you like or not, you can't escape this phenomenon. The solution is how we're going to cope up with this technology.
So what should we do about it?
So,
what is it that we can do about it?
So of course we need some supporters, some technological, maybe imitation, whatever you can call it, or maybe technological transformation from developing countries. Africa has lots of friends, and the continent by itself is creating multilateralism with even superpowers, with Russia, European countries, the US, and also its role, and also its role in the BRICS member countries, which have seized significant technological opportunities, and Africa can make a transition or a transformation in its technological journey. Of course, we have witnessed so many results, especially in AI technology. Let's see, we are here in Addis Ababa. For instance, the Ethiopian government for the last some years has made significant progress, by the way, in digital transformation, including AI, establishing the Ethiopian artificial intelligence, which is really contributing a lot in development sectors like agricultural development and in the health sectors, in the social sector. So Africa has a potential. Of course, Africa has a capacity to do this. Many countries also, in South Africa and Kenya, if you take these countries, they have making some advancements. Of course, there are still some challenges, and despite those challenges, there are some attempts. So these countries but needs political willingness and also investment to achieve this technology, and by any means. So the media, as a middle of this effort, the media should play a very important role by showing solution-oriented solutions. So Africa has already started its journey, but comparing with the advanced world, we are still lagging behind. We're not enough equipped with technology. For instance, you mentioned earlier that for prediction, you need the know-how and the technology. The AI technology, for instance, make very easy about the climate prediction, about the climate intelligence. So it's important to work on this and on technological transformation, and media should contribute in this regard. With the journalists are expected a lot to do this, I would say.
Yeah, generally speaking, media really is very important for the African continent, not only for IGAD member states. Of course, media is, a tool for the global community in order for the global community to achieve what it needs, what it wants, what it aims. And especially for Africa, it is maybe more important in that Africa is a continent with a lot of challenges, and so resilience should be there. And for you to have resilience, of course, media should play a peculiar role in helping people to become, resilient in their encounter with the challenges around them. And Africans don't have, just one single voice. They are, of course, complex. Okay, they are diverse, and their voices, need to be entertained as much as possible through their media. So, of course, these two media awards, the IGAD Media Award and the African Media Award, attempted to show the role media can play in order for Africa to become, a prosperous continent, in order to have, resilience in its encounter of challenges. Time limits us here, and we need to wrap today's roundup.
Thank you so much, Gamas.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Viewers, thank you very much for watching our roundup today, which ends right here. Next time we'll come up with new edition. Until then, goodbye.